The
Oh.
masterpiece that I chose here was the Grand Budapest Hotel. So this is a film from 2014, directed by Wes Anderson. The plot summary: a writer encounters the owner of an aging, high-class hotel who tells him of his early years serving as a lobby boy in the hotel's glorious years under an exceptional concierge. So not only does this star Ray Fiennes, but also F. Murray Abraham, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, Adrian Brody, Jeff Goldblum, Jude Law. It's just like a ton of actors in a ensemble Wes Anderson film. So I we actually talked about this movie in a previous episode, which I'll post the link to below. It was one of your comfort movies in the comfort movie
Hmm.
episode. So we did discuss the film there, but this time I'll talk a little more about Ray Fiennes and then some other thoughts I have just on the film. And the reason why I think for me this is his masterpiece performance, so the one that now whenever I think of Ray Fiennes, even though the first impression for me was Quiz Show, I always think of this role in Grand Budapest and a role that I don't think anyone else could have played. Is
Yeah.
it really is the this duality that we've been talking about of a veneer of a guy who looks like he's super classy and got kind of everything together, but really kind of doesn't. There's something else more going on there. Is this entire character that he plays at Gustav, where you don't really get a sense of his backstory, but he puts on these airs of like he follows the rules. He's all about etiquette and is super classy, very proper and things like that. But in these amazing scenes that he does, like at the drop of a hat, he'll just completely change into just a, I guess, I mean, not to like be classist or like more of like a lower class kind of like vulgar. He'll throw around swear words like all the time out of nowhere. Like one of my favorite transitions is when he, this woman he's been sleeping with passes away, gives him a painting that they're coming back. He gets the painting from her will reading. It's like, you know what? This painting, I love this. It'll always remind me of her. This is my most important possession. I want to be buried with it. And like a second later, it's like, you know what? Actually, let's sell this. The first time let's just immediately sell this painting. We got to get the money. We're gonna, and like that is just this duality. And he does that several times in the
Hmm.
film, of like flipping between these two things. And I think that is just Ray Fiennes. That's his persona. That's what he's been kind of developing over the years in these other films we've even talked about today. And to me, he's Gustav is just he nails this role and brings sort of a heart to this character too, where you don't really understand a lot of his motivations. They talk a little bit about his backstory in one scene, but you and he gives so much in his performance that you can start filling in those blanks yourself that just make him such a rich character. So I know this is your masterpiece as well. So why did you choose this as your masterpiece for Rafe?
Yeah, like now it's Gustav is sort of etched in my brain as Rafe or the other way around. It's
Hmm.
everything you said, and I think I'll just add to it, which is it's the offness, but now it's played for comedy, but it's not zany.
Mm.
Maybe a little bit. And I think his comedic timing, physical comedy, but also line delivery, how he interacts with other characters in the movie, it's just pure gold. And it's so hard to do, and he makes it look so easy and effortless. And then as you kind of dig deeper into his character in the movie, yeah, you're not really sure, what are his motivations?
Right.
He's sort of tricking these older women, but he also provides a lot of comfort to them. He might be portraying to be of the upper sort of class, but he is a working class guy. He does take care of his people, even though he is very eccentric and demands a lot out of them. He's standing by the right thing, but he's also stealing things. So there's like
Hmm.
these dualities that are playing across the board. But at the end of it, what you're left with is his quirks, the perfume and all of it, but then just a really good heart too, like
Hmm.
he makes Zero's life in so many ways, but it's not done in a, oh, I'm saving you kind of way either, because there's just
Right.
so much like complexity and depth to him. So yeah, this is just a masterpiece. Few actors get to kind of use all the colors in their box, if you will. And I'm just so happy that Wes Anderson found him. And especially in this later Wes Anderson period where there aren't like leads in the movie. And even though watching this movie again, I've watched it so many times, like Rafe is not in the movie a whole lot. Like he
Right.
disappears for a lot of it. And which is why I finally cracked that why he was not nominated for Best Actor. Because the movie is, even though it feels like he's in the whole movie, he isn't. I wish they would
Mm.
have campaigned him for best supporting actor. That would have been a better choice. But this is just me and my
Interesting.
Oscar nerdery. So it's a shame that he is not nominated for an Oscar for this movie because it's such a in my mind, like a monumental performance of the last 10 years, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, this is just pure gold.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on the film itself, so we did a Wes Anderson episode, which I'll link below too. And he's been one of my favorite directors since high school, but I came of age with him. So for me, Rushmore and Tenenbaums are like really the two quintessential Anderson films. And I feel like this movie for folks younger than us, because we
Yeah.
are very old, that kind of came to age in the last 10 years, this seems to be their introduction to Wes Anderson. And this was their like Rushmore and their Royal Tenenbaums, where, it's put on the top of Wes Anderson lists all the time. And for a long time, I enjoyed this movie when I first saw it. And the more and more times I see it, it's starting to kind of land a little bit more because there is, in terms of the heart of what this movie is about, because there's so much of Wes Anderson's style involved in here. And sometimes, you can criticize him for style over substance. I think there's definitely substance there, but, this
Hmm.
movie has so much style. It's been hard for me to try to find kind of the substance in it. And it was really on this viewing, I think that the movie sort of purposely doesn't talk about what the movie's actually really trying to talk about, which is Zero's story about Agatha, which is the woman that he loved. And then he's trying to avoid talking about her so much. And to me, this movie really is actually about that. It's dealing with lost love and how you handle that, having the person that you're in love with die too young. And that seems to be to me what actually the message and the heart of this movie is, even though they put all these other things around it just because the narrator of the narrator. I guess there's it's kind of a Russian doll of of
Oh
plot
yeah.
structure here, but the older Zero, F. Murray Abraham playing the older Zero, just doesn't want to talk about what he really does want to talk about, which is his love for Agatha, and he's sort of he's trying to put an illusion up that it's fine, I'm okay, like I've moved on, like this isn't bothering me anymore. In the same way that Ray Fiennes' character is putting this illusion up of this class or this society that is potentially gone because of this, the World War II that happens in this movie. But on this viewing, it kind of landed on me. Yeah, this movie's really about the love that he had for, or still has actually, for Agatha, not being able to get over that, even though he's trying to pretend that he is, and that loss just is with you forever.
Yeah, that's a great read on it. I didn't think about it in that depth, but I think it's totally right. And of course, underscored by fascism and
Right.
the loss of an era and all of those things. But yeah, the center of it is that love and yeah, I mean, now that it clicks in for me, as you say it, is that when the movie starts, there's just such deep loneliness
Mm-hmm.
in the hotel, but also in F. Murray Abraham's character, the way he talks to Jude Law, and there's just like a stillness and like a haunting sort of quality. And yeah, you can take it as that, yeah, Gustav isn't there, and the old charms and the old sort of splendor and glory of the hotel are no longer there. But it's really about the fact that Agatha isn't there and
Right.
somebody who you lost when they were so young. That memory, I think, is then juxtaposed with the affection and just being seeing quality that Zero got from Gustav. And that's why he comes and always sleeps in that little room, even though he owns the hotel, because that takes him back to that place of being in love, but being cared for by Gustav, being taught, mentored. Like the scenes between young Zero and Gustav, not only are they fun, but they're also moving. Like the
Oh
first
yeah.
few times when I saw the movie, I would always end up crying those in that scenes in the train when Gustav stands up for him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're very moving, or even just like the little banter between them, or when Gustav escapes from the prison and Zero is there with all the perfume and everything for him. Just like the little detail like this. In fact, that's the true love story of the movie as well. So
What
maybe there's mourning of the fact that Gustav isn't there, but also the fact that Agatha isn't there.
Yeah, I sort of take it too as maybe F. Murray Abraham can't talk about Agatha at all. So the other loss he can talk about is Gustav, because it's easier for him to talk about lost love with his plutonic love for his
Right.
friend and his mentor, as opposed to love for Agatha, because he just can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene, I love that scene too. Speaking of like the quick transitions, when Gustav gets so angry at Zero for not bringing the perfume after
Yeah.
they escape, and he's railing at him, he's like, "How did you come here, dirty immigrant? What the hell? Why'd you even come here?" And he's like, "Oh, everyone died in a war. Like my whole family was tortured. I had to flee." And then immediately Gustav's like, "Oh my God, I take back everything I just said. I'm so sorry. You're amazing." And they're like, "Oh," and then they start shooting at him like, we'll carry this on later, but I want to hear more about your background." And then they kind of run away. That scene too is like really moving in a way. It's like he's
Yeah.
lashing out at his friend, and friends get in fights
Right.
all the time, and but you sort of forget like what that you guys still love each other, and I just love
Exactly.
that moment too.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just very moving. And you said this is where Wes Anderson's a Russian doll, hyper kind of art design focus movies really start. Like before this, that wasn't, I mean, like it was happening a little bit before, but like
A
this is
little.
where it really kind of goes on steroids. And I think this is the best manifestation of it. Like all
Hmm.
the stop motion and the creation of the hotel, all the skiing scenes and the
Oh, I
chase
love those.
scenes and the prison. Like this movie has everything, but yet it has story and yet it has heart. It's just such a enjoyable movie, and that's why it was such a big hit. I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
glad that he has that on his portfolio of this like massive hit blockbuster movie, which I who knew if he would ever have that. So I'm happy that he does.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder too if, the reason why I didn't, it was harder for me to connect on this film at an emotional level because of all the
Oh yeah.
aspects you just talked about. I wonder if that is just also part of this theme of
Yeah.
the character can't talk about this loss, so he dresses it up in all these things and has to separate himself from this like lost love, which is really the key to this film. And it's you have to kind of go through all like open up the Russian doll and go all the way down to the little one in the end
Yeah.
at the bottom, and so you realize that, and you have to put the effort in, and that's why the more times I see this movie, the higher it gets in my Wes Anderson ranking, and the more it moves me. Even though when I first saw it, I loved it, but it was more I loved the craft of it. And the
Right.
score is great and the acting is great, but I couldn't really latch onto the emotional core of the film. And only now, in rewatching it so many times over the last 10 years, I guess the movie's now that old, it's starting to open itself up to me. And especially on this last viewing, for some reason, it really clicked of like, oh, this movie's actually all about Agatha, which is funny because I was going into this movie watching it for Ray Fiennes' performance. I was focused so much more on Gustav this time more than any other else because it's like, okay, I want to talk about how Ray Fiennes, and then for some reason that focus immediately and realized like, oh, actually the movie's about this other thing. I don't know. Rewatching movies is great. I love rewatching movies. Even if I don't really like it a lot, I'll rewatch a movie again, and sometimes it just clicks on
You
another
just
level, and
reveal
that's
new
what makes
things.
movies so special, especially movies like this.
Yeah, I think that's in there for sure. To me, the movie is the love story between Zero and Gustav. Like
Hmm.
that is the main theme of the movie for sure. But then, yeah, there's that too. There's the Agatha piece in there as well for sure. Yeah, I think it's West too. Probably. I think this is who he is now. Like all of his
Yeah.
movies after this are very deep, but on first viewing they may not reveal everything. Like Asteroid City is just so deep and so complex that I
Hmm.
I can't wait to rewatch it. I loved it the first time, but it has a lot more on his mind that finally I know and I hope that I'll get to kind of the core of it.
Yeah, and that's always been a theme as we talked about in the Wes Anderson episode we did too. It's like this theme of loss and trying to like
Yeah,
paper over an emotional pain that you had, especially from your childhood or something. It's like ignoring that and what that does to you and the people around you, and not
yeah,
addressing your pain. And maybe now he's just burying it more in his films under all of this artifice of his amazing style and eye and camera movements and set designs. And yeah, this
right,
movie, especially all the different techniques, is just with the stop motion, like you mentioned. I think after he did Fantastic Mr. Fox, he's like, oh,
right.
that is a new tool in my tool chest. I'm going to use this when I want to serve the story. And it's just fantastic film. I just really, really enjoy this movie. And I do think it's Rafe's greatest performance.
I agree.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.